What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ironinfidel.com. Mike here, and today we're going to be talking about some rifle mechanics and specifically reload drills. Now, there's a lot of different ways or several different ways to conduct reload drills. And just because something's different doesn't mean that it doesn't work or doesn't mean that it can't be as good as some type of reload you're going to do. But we're going to focus on three major types of reloads today, or transition reload things today. And that is going to be a bolt lock reload and how you're going to position your rifle and maybe some magazines, a tactical exchange, and then a transition reload where you go from your rifle to your pistol so you can kind of see the mechanics of these things and practice these at home. Now, these are low round count drills. You can even do these dry fire with no ammunition at all. So it's a good way to get mechanics down, work on some accuracy at the same time, and not spend a ton of money out there on the range. That way you can spend a little bit of extra coin getting yourself a battle bottle. Because dehydration sucks. You've got the large one, the small one, Molly, cell phone pocket, key hanger, everything you need. And we also have fitness equipment. If you are into fitness bands or anything, we've got those so you can stay healthy and hydrated out there in your daily life. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about today is the bolt lock or the emergency reload. And that is when you have absolutely run your rifle dry, which is not optimal, right? You don't want to ever run out of gas here. That's why I always say gas it up. Keep that thing fresh with food. That way you can keep running the range drills out there. But what are we going to do when we do this drill? We don't want to take time and do some kind of tactical exchange. We need to get another magazine in there immediately. So we're going to run through the mechanics of this. And I'm going to show you two ways to position your rifle to get this thing done. So we're going to go ahead, put our eyes and ears on, load up, make ready, and run this first drill. So to run this, I've got a magazine staged here with a single round in it. This is just for ease of use to show you guys the drill. So what we're going to want to accomplish here is we're going to present, we're going to fire one round, then we're going to conduct our empty gun reload by dropping the magazine, inserting another, and I'll show you two different ways predominantly that most people hold their rifles when they get this done. Now, we're not talking about tactics per se right now, so we're not going to be talking about movement or cover or concealment or getting behind something when you reload. We're just going to conduct the drill so you guys can see what it looks like. All right, so that was basically the first type of reload when you go on a bolt lock. So you notice that the rifle pretty much stayed in the pocket of my shoulder. There is another way where you break the rifle down like this that we're going to show now so you guys can have a really good idea of how that's going to look, because at certain times that may be more appropriate than trying to keep your rifle out here, especially if you're running a suppressor and you got a big heavy rifle and you're running reload drills all day. You might have to bring that rifle into you at some point based on the surroundings you're in, tight spaces, things like that, so bear that in mind. I'll stage this again and we'll run through the next one. All right, so both are pretty smooth, but you can probably see that it does take a little extra time to bring the rifle in, break it down, get the magazine exchange, and then bring the rifle back out as compared to coming up, firing, slight twist, conduct the exchange, and come right back out on the rifle. Now, situationally dependent. Just because there's two different ways to do something doesn't necessarily mean that one is better than the other. These are just things I want you to try to see what works for you. What I will say is leaving the rifle out here can be a little bit cumbersome because of the weight, depending on your strength and size. It also can be a little bit more prone to dipping the rifle and then you miss your magazine exchange. So practice both while you are a little bit tired and then see which one works for you. All right, so we're gonna take a quick pause from the drills and we're gonna talk about the rifle I'm running today because I get a lot of questions about that on the videos here. So this is the PSA Saber line with the Geisley rail, the 14.5 barrel, and the JMac 3-chamber brake with a chemo mount so I can run this Siege suppressor, which is turning out to be probably one of the better suppressors that I personally own. As far as how this thing is outfitted, flatline fiber sling on here, some of the best slings out there in the market. Magpul SLS stock on here. Driven Concepts grip, much more of a neutral angle, so as you present, it's much more easy on your wrist than those old A2 grips that arc your wrist way back. On this one, you got Radian controls here, standard Palmetto Saber, upper and lower. Jaegerworks mount, as you can see, I've just got a Vortex Spark Solar on there. my D-ball on there because I wanted to get a lot of rounds through this. It's kind of a newer rifle. I've got a few thousand rounds through it, but I was really curious how this thing was going to hold up after thousands of rounds because this is their premier line. We've got our Geisley rail on here, which is just slightly different from the URGI rail, which is in use by all of SOCOM right now. I've got our Unity button right here. That's the new Axon dual switch, light laser, so pretty good setup there. Surefire Scout, Surefire tail cap, and you've got redundancy built into this because you've got a pressure pad on the back of the light, pressure pad here, and then your laser is operated there. Plus on your laser, you can operate it up here on the top. And then down here, just got a Factor USA hand stop right there wrapped with some equine tape. So I know there's a lot of companies out there that sell this wrap and call it some kind of Tacta wrap or whatever it is, and they want $34 a roll. It's the exact same thing that people use on their horses for their joints or animals, or even a self-adhesive bandage that you can buy on Amazon for like $4 a roll. So don't get sucked into buying the expensive stuff. Just get some of that, replace it as needed, and you're gonna be good to go. Another cool thing up here is this little ring right there. So that is actually from Caveman Industries, I believe it is. And that little ring is heat sensitive, so it will turn and glow like pink and white, and that lets you know that this is far too hot to touch. And then once it cools down, it will turn back to that gray color or whatever the native color of the one you got was, letting you know that you can take your suppressor off and everything. And yes, we'll have to blur that out because the overlords won't allow us to show that thing coming off and on. So that, in a nutshell, is what I'm running for the rifle. As far as my kit down here, I'm running an HSGI belt, a Safari Land holster on the right side because I'm right-handed, wearing HSGI taco pouches, a flatline fiber dump pouch here in the splatter pattern so nothing matches, because who wants to match out on the range, right? I'm also running an HSGI med kit on the back and an additional magazine pouch on the side. Normally keep a multi-tool here, but that's in my other belt, so I'm just keeping an extra mag for all the drills and everything we're running out today. And I've got a tourniquet up in the front with a marker. On the back of the med kit, you'll see the chem lights and markers and all that stuff. Those are all different videos, but get a lot of questions about the kit, the gear, and the rifles and stuff, so that's what it is. As far as the pistol goes, we are running the Springfield Echelon with a Floyd's custom port job here with the Floyd's magwell extensions, Surefire X300 on there, and the Steiner MPS solid pistol. A lot of testing going on with that thing right now. So that is the gear. Let's get back to some drills. All right, next up is going to be the tactical exchange. So this is basically a different type of reload where we have not run the gun dry. We still have fresh rounds in there, but we've expended some rounds. We don't know how many rounds per se are left in our magazine, and we want to get a fresh magazine in there, and it's safe to do so. So this is where that cover concealment comes into play. Again, this isn't about tactics. This is just about the mechanics of the rifle. There are a couple of different ways to position your hand that I'll show you real quick here, because one may work better for you. Again, we've just done something, we've expended some rounds, and at this point we want to address this magazine and gas this gun up. What we need to do is grab our fresh magazine, and you can either position your hand like this, come inside right here, grab that magazine and go straight up in like that, or you can grab here, position like an L, twist, and come in like that. It does not matter which way you do it, just find the way that works for you best. Some people don't like pinching the mag like that. Some people do. Completely up to you. Again, just because something's different doesn't mean it won't work. We'll go ahead and run through both of those variations so you guys can get a really good idea and find out which one might best suit you. Okay, so overall can be accomplished fairly quickly out there. Again, not talking about movement or tactics or anything. Let's go ahead, check the other style of doing this and see which one maybe would work best for you. What a great way to show you a magazine failure right there. So 2 rounds have come into the top of that PMag, allowing the other round not to feed. So if I push this here, you'll see that other round pops back up. Those are the kind of things you can run into out on the range. And you can see because of that mag failure, it didn't load another round. So we'll go ahead, run that second drill now. All right, so the last thing you want to remember about that is stowage of the magazine, right? So you saw each time that I replaced that magazine right here. If you've got a big dump pouch, like my splatter patter or flatline right here, you can throw it in here. But this is your emergency reload pouch. So you always want to have a magazine with rounds in it right here, should you have to do the emergency reload. Now we're gonna talk about one more, and this one's kind of interesting. This is what I call the Fed tack exchange, because in a class several years back, this is a way that they taught, which is interesting. There is a place for it. I do know of people actually using this in country overseas during the GWAT, so this version is a little different. So instead of having a bolt lock or doing a tack exchange where you grab and retain that magazine, basically if you are in some form of intermittent gunfight or something, you come up, you expend a few rounds, and you know you're low, keep a round in the chamber, just get rid of that magazine, throw another one in there and worry about that mag later, or leave it in place if you have to move dynamically. So I'm just gonna show you real quick what that looks like, which is pretty simple, to be honest. So. So as you can see, it's pretty fast, but the problem is now we've got a magazine on the ground with rounds in it. Not the preferred method, but if you know you're going from one room to another and you need to reload immediately, that could be a way to do it. Again, I know it has been used overseas. That's what I'll say. You can find that information out there, but that is another style of tack exchange that is taught out there in the world. Not my preferred method again, but just because something's different doesn't mean it won't work for you in a given situation. Let's talk about another option here. So if you are carrying a rifle and you are carrying a gun belt with a belt mounted pistol, you have another option, and that's to transition to your pistol if you run your rifle dry. So again, I've staged this. I got an empty mag with one round in the chamber, and I'm just gonna show you how this works. Basically, a quick walkthrough. You'll come up, you'll present, you'll fire that one round, you'll run that gun dry. You're gonna wanna transition the rifle like this, so the magazine goes to the opposite side for when you pick it up. You can see right there, and at that point, you can do two things at the same time. It's not that hard, you do it all the time. As you're transitioning from here, reach back, grab your pistol, present, do your work here. You bring that pistol back in because it's loaded, it's still good. Bring your rifle up, see what your issue is, make sure it's not a malfunction, and then you'll conduct your magazine exchange and clear out what you need to clear out. So we'll run through this at speed now so you guys have a really good idea of how this is gonna look. So overall, there's a lot of movement there. Really got to think about that. And there are some finer points there, but those are the gross overall movements. Again, the thing that you really have to nail is the positioning of the rifle. Because if you just drop it straight down, you don't know which direction it's going to go, how it's going to fall. So you do want to guide that rifle down, acquire that pistol, present, fire, keep this pistol somewhere where you can still see the muzzle and get it back out there. You don't want to just drop it down here, something like that. Keep it out there, do some work with it, keep it in the game until you know what's going on, get rid of it, and then do your exchange here. How you do your exchange, whether you come back and put it in the pocket of your shoulder or you keep it broke down here, completely up to you. You can do it either way, find out what works best for you. Again, these can all be accomplished dry fire. You can do one round, you can do preloads. That way you get the feeling down, because you need to understand what your rifle feels like when the bolt lock goes versus a malfunction, because they will have two distinctly different feelings, and you need to get used to that, because that's instantly going to tell you along with the safety. So if you can manipulate your safety or cannot manipulate your safety, that's going to tell you, has that bolt cycled? Now, if you can't manipulate that safety, that's going to tell you that there's something going on malfunction wise likely. and you're gonna need to clear that out as compared to just a reload drill. That's also gonna be why we're gonna confirm when we look at it, when we bring that rifle back up before we holster our pistol. So those are things you're gonna wanna take into account, but ultimately, those are pretty much the three main types of reloads that I use out there, whether it was from my time in the Rangers and the Army, to law enforcement. Those were the most common ones. Now there are other versions, there are tactics that come into play, there is cover, concealment, all of that is a discussion for another day. So make sure you get subbed up to the channel, keep doing things out there on the range. Check out ironinfidel.com if you're looking for some fitness gear, fitness bands, or of course, stay healthy, stay hydrated, because dehydration sucks, and get yourself a battle bottle. I just wanted to feel the power between my legs. That thing's smoothed out really nicely. I'm surprised. Okay. Otherwise, we're gonna be like, me f***ing word salad. I'm gonna sound like Kamala Harris. And then I'll giggle afterwards or something. All right, bolt lock reload. Okay, ready?
Ready.